Sander Mak, welcome to Duke's Corner.
Hi, Jim. Happy to be here.
It's good to see you. We met, I guess, it's been a few months now in Stockholm for at JFocus.
Yeah, early this year indeed.
Which is
very nice
one of my favorite conferences. Again. Yeah, it's a great conference, and so we're here to talk about JavaOne. JavaOne's coming up in a couple of months, and it's in Las Vegas this time, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be great to get everybody back together again under that umbrella. Yeah. And you're a speaker, so that's why we're really talking here. So I want to hear a little bit about your session, talk a little bit about you, talk a little bit about maybe why you became a developer, what's it like to be a developer, just sort of stuff like that. And so let's start off with the conference. You're doing a talk. It's got a big, long title here, Streamlining Large-Scale Java Development Using Error-Prone. So I'm interested not only in the tools that you're using here, but I'm interested in this concept of large-scale. What does large-scale mean? So let's just start there. What's this session about?
Yeah. No, indeed, the title is quite long, but the content is, I would say, applicable not only to large-scale code bases, but also to smaller projects. But anyway, the large scale here is that I'm currently working with a company called Picnic, and we're in a scale-up phase. So it's a company that started out with a handful of developers, and we're now with a team over 200 developers working on many Java code bases. What you see happening there is that obviously everyone has opinions about style. Everyone has opinions about what is good code. And we learned the hard way that doing this over pull request reviews and just relying on developer discipline, it doesn't scale, right? So what we wanted to do is find a way to actually go beyond this sort of manual kind of policing and reviewing, and try to find a tool that will help us encode bug patterns, but also refactorings. So going from patterns of code that we don't really like to patterns of code that we do like, to do this in an automated fashion so that we can actually scale this and not just throw our hands in the air and say, okay, oh, well, then let's forget about it and everyone will just do whatever they think is best. But that also as a company, we're able to at scale help our developers apply these patterns and make sure that we focus on the real interesting things in pull request reviews and not on the sort of the details and the things that we can automate away. So that's a bit of the background behind the title and then the content of the talk.
Interesting. So I would imagine you use this in practice every day, right? Is this a common tool? Would Java developers be familiar with this concept?
Well, I think that a lot of developers are familiar with the concept of static analysis tools. So lots of people do know Spotbugs, Checkstyle, SonarQube, or other tools. And in concept, it's pretty similar what we do with Error-Prone. We just go one step further and use the tool in such a way that it doesn't just flag issues, but it will also help us to automatically fix these issues. And that you, as a developer, are actually relieved of having to do this yourself. And I think a lot of developers sort of have this hate-love relationship with static analysis tools, where it's like eating your vegetables, right? So it's good for you, and it will give you a better result, but you don't really like it. And with Error-Prone and Refaster, another associated tool that we use, we can actually make this a bit more fun and easier to apply for developers. So to your question, I think the concept is pretty well known of using these kind of tools, but going one step further and actually having a tool that also can do the refactoring for you is not that widespread yet. And this tool that we use, Error-Prone, it is open source. It's actually open source by Google already for a couple of years. It's not super widely adopted, but there's definitely a community around this, and I see this growing as well.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Is your session going to be like a lab sort of a concept, or like you're going to or you're going to do some coding, or what's the structure of the actual presentation?
Yeah, so there will be lots of live coding and demos of the tool. So what I'm going to show is how you can use it out of the box without any customizations, which will already bring you quite a bit of value with the checks that are in there that are automatically provided. But then as a next step, I'm going to show you how you can actually customize the tool and tailor it to your own sort of patterns and your own sort of checks that you would like to have in your company. And then as a third step, I'm going to show Refaster, which is an adjacent project to ErrorProne, which I think is really cool, where you as a developer can easily write in sort of example-based manner patterns for code where you say, okay, I want a pattern match on this particular invocation of this particular users of an API, and I want to rewrite this to another way of doing this in code. And you can do this using just concrete Java code. So you don't have to know any APIs to fiddle with abstract syntax trees and do any sort of intricate stuff there. But you can fairly easily, just by giving a piece of example code of the old code and the new code, instruct Refaster and ErrorProne to do large-scale refactoring for you. So all of this will be explained, but also demonstrated in the session.
Cool. This concept of refactoring is interesting to me, especially when you have such a large code base. It can get really complex. Is refactoring something that is an ongoing process, or is it something that you as a developer or your team would do at certain times? In other words, like, at a certain number of years or a certain number of months, or is it just top of mind as a constant process, especially as teams grow?
Yeah, that's a fair question. And we're a relatively young company. It was founded in 2015. So there's definitely companies out there with more legacy code, let's say. But already to us, you see definitely across different teams that refactoring becomes more top of mind the longer your product lives, right? And the more you evolve it, the more you need to be on top of actually keeping your code base healthy. And the interesting thing is that there's a lot of ways you can approach refactoring. You can do sort of the Boy Scout rule and say, okay, whenever you have to make a change, then just have a look around and see if you can improve anything else, which sort of works. But again, it relies on discipline of developers, and it doesn't really guarantee the outcome here. But you can also go for a more automated way, as I explained, using refactoring with ErrorProne and with Refaster. And you cannot do everything that you would like to do, but the smaller things and sort of the small patterns you will be able to express in terms of a so-called Refaster rule, which then can be tied into your CI, so your continuous integration. So that will be applied forever, right? So it's not just a one-time thing, but it will be there for as long as you keep the check in your CI. Which means that, as a developer, once you've actually identified such a pattern and you've encoded it in this tooling, you don't have to think about it anymore. It will be applied for you, and you will be, automatically helped there. So I think even though you cannot cover 100% of the cases using this automated tooling, you can cover a lot, and that already helps you to free your bandwidth to do the more, let's say, complex or tricky refactorings yourself.
Interesting. I'm always fascinated when I talk to engineers about the tools that they use, because I get this impression that, the tools have just become so advanced. And sometimes I sit in meetings with a bunch of engineers and I just shake my head. Even if I can follow some of the conversation, I shake my head and say, man, this just seems like a little bit of magic here, and a lot of it is, obviously you have the skill and the knowledge that the engineer is bringing to it, but a lot of this has been abstracted into the tools, the automation process, and which I find fascinating. Because I used to be in the construction business, and there also you use tools, right? And I observe the same thing there as well. Is this something, this desire to seek out complexity, like, is this something you were always into as a kid that you became a developer? Because this stuff is awfully complex. This is not a...
Yeah, you could say that definitely I've been attracted to let's say puzzles and solving problems at an early age. I'm not one of those people who has been coding since age 6, but I definitely was interested in computers and everything around that. So that I think steered my interests, and in the end made sure that I ended up as a software engineer. And I think you need to have certain sort of drive to want to dive into complexity and to untangle things and to solve the puzzle, let's say, as a software engineer, because otherwise you're going to have a really, really tough time if you don't like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bet. So JavaOne is coming up. Have you been to any of the previous? I mean, JavaOne's been, we've all been home the last few years, right? So, but have you been to any of the previous JavaOnes?
Yeah, quite a few. So I think my first JavaOne was in 2010, so already quite a while ago. So enjoyed very much this conference, the atmosphere, and being in surrounding with lots of other very good Java developers. So I really enjoyed that. Really looking forward to this edition as well. Like you said, it's been a while, and obviously also a new venue in Las Vegas. So I'm really eager to see how it will turn out. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I haven't been to Las Vegas in about 20 years, I guess.
Okay.
I keep on saying 30. I don't know. It's just stuck in my head. But my first JavaOne was in 2000. 2000. Yeah, that was my first.
Wow.
So when I joined Sun, but I haven't been to all of them. I've just been, because then I got involved with Open Solaris. I was in the Open Solaris project at Sun, and so I missed a bunch in the middle. But I'm looking forward to it because it seems to be, people, when they describe JavaOne, it seems to have a special place. It seems to have a special resonance among developers. They all have interesting stories that only took place at JavaOne, which I find interesting.
Yeah, no, I think it's an iconic conference in a sense, so I can definitely recognize that.
Yeah. So one of the things at JavaOne, or really any conference, any really good conference, we discussed a little bit of, JFocus a little bit earlier, but there's DevNexus, there's all the DevOps conferences. I mean, there's lots of really great Java conferences in the community, and JavaOne is just one of many. And talk a little bit about the community. I mean, you're a speaker, you're an author, you're a Java champion. So you're not just behind the firewall, you're out in the community, you're mixing with people. Talk a little bit about some of your experiences, not only at JavaOne, but just out there really everywhere. What's it like working in one of the largest open source communities in the world?
Yeah, for sure. I think looking at the Java community, there's so much activity and there's so much people, helping out there. It's really amazing. Also, I mean, even in the Netherlands, where I'm from, we have a Dutch Java user group, which is also quite active. We also have a full day conference that we do yearly in November, which I mean, it sells out in a couple of days. Really? There's like 1,500 Java developers coming together then, and just in the Netherlands. So that really goes to show that, the community is one of the things that makes Java tick, I would say, on multiple levels, right? So on the one hand, the people being involved in meetups, conferences, sharing knowledge, and also in fact that we see such an amazing sort of wealth of open source libraries in the Java ecosystem. I think that is, besides Java being a great language and having great tooling, I think having such a big open source sort of ecosystem of libraries is what sets Java apart from other languages and other ecosystems. So both, I would say at the code level and at the people level, there's a lot of amazing things happening in Java. And especially also, you mentioned author. I wrote indeed a book together with Paul Bakker on the Java module system that was released in Java 9. You see people actually engaging a lot with not just Oracle when a new feature is released, but also with people in the community who are enthusiastic about certain features, who are enthusiastic about certain developments in the language. And that's something that I think is fairly special for Java.
So how was it writing a book? Is it something that took you a while to do?
Oh, for sure. So I think it took us 18 months to get the book together, which is quite an investment, and it was a great challenge. So
it's slightly more than a tweet then, right?
Yeah. You can definitely say that. It was something I definitely wanted to do, so I'm not complaining, but I'm also not writing a book anytime soon, I think, again. I'm really happy with and proud of the results, but yes, it's quite intense.
Yeah, but it's a huge contribution to the community. I mean, we were talking about community a little bit earlier. Even for non-technical people like me, or non-engineers, this I've contributed to many communities over the years because I really value that concept of contribution, right? And so it's such a great way for people to get attention for themselves, to earn credibility, even just to meet people, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm always interested to go to these events, and the sessions are great, but also the hallway conversations and the dinners and stuff. And what's so cool, especially at the more, I guess, prestigious conferences, there's so much hacking that goes on. There's so many little side conversations. I'm a photographer, and I'm always looking for the small group of people in the corner with their computers open, just kind of hacking at something. They're talking, or someone will ask me, "Hey, have you seen so and so? I'm really struggling with this problem. I have to talk to him. Only him. He's the only one, right?" And so
that's really where the magic happens, when people meet each other and are like-minded and actually get together that way.
Exactly. And that's something I think, although the Zoom stuff has been really great and wonderful, the last 2 years, almost 3 years, has just been fantastic. I'm being really facetious here, but I mean, it's just great to get back together again to sort of rekindle that natural human to human closeness, right? That you can just do so much in a really short amount of time.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I really miss that. So, all right. Well, JavaOne, October 17th, Las Vegas. It's going to be interesting. It's not San Francisco. It's always been San Francisco. So it'll
be a new experience.
Yeah, it'll be, I guess, a little different personality. Should be cool. All right, Sander Mak from the Netherlands. We will see you there.
Thanks, Jin. See you there.